signs that you need to heal your innate divine feminine. When our innate divine feminine is suppressed or wounded, it shows up in a constellation of ways. It shows up physically. It shows up with low self-esteem, our inability to feel safe in relationships, block intimacy, our intuition, our creativity, and our power. Yet, in this video, I'm going to share with you some simple tools on how to first recognize if you have your innate divine feminine that is wounded, how to bring healing and connection so that you can have more joy, creativity, trust, and receptivity in your life. When our innate divine feminine is wounded, it hampers our ability for our feminine essence to really express itself fully. And there are many reasons that this happens. First, it might be karmic, intergenerational inheritance. It might be woundings from romantic partners, issues from our family of origin. It might be even past life. But the big thing that we see when our innate divine feminine is wounded is that we don't feel safe. We feel unsupported. And often that manifests as feeling that there is something wrong with you, something innately wrong with you. And when we talk about the divine feminine and the masculine, we're not talking about gender or sex. We are talking about specific energies. Within all of us, we really hold both the innate divine feminine and masculine. Yet when one of these energies is hampered in one way or another, we end up getting out of balance energetically in our bodies. And this manifests in a whole constellation of different ways, including patterns of low self-esteem, patterns of avoidance in our intimacy, being disconnected from our bodies, from our intuition, from our creativity, and from ourselves. So I'm going to share with you some different telltale signs and how to bring some of these energies back into balance. Now, before I go any further, hi, I'm Sonia. I'm a fourth generation intuitive, and I teach you how to plug back into your innate divine self, your intuition. If you're new here, hello, I'm so happy to have you here. Definitely click subscribe and that little bell notification because I release videos every single week. If you're returning, I'm so happy you're here. Welcome back. And if you just happened upon my page, definitely don't forget to hit subscribe. I have tons of tools for you. And for just a little bit of housekeeping, I'm super excited because next Wednesday, I am going to be teaching a workshop all about using our intuition to heal our lives. That will dovetail just beautifully into this video. So definitely click the link, check out the description box below for more info to sign up. And if you can't make it in person, I record all of my workshops, so you will get them delivered to your inbox as well. All right, enough of the housekeeping. Let's get into brass tacks. So the reason why I wanted to make this video is just recently I was talking to a client who was telling me about how she was so in her intellect. She's like, I love to be grounded and organized, and I am exhausted from feeling like I have to work so hard. I feel that I am disconnected. I can't find a love partnership. I feel hampered in my creativity, and I'm not sure what's wrong with me. I keep working so hard. I have all this information. I've been to therapy, but yet I keep stumbling across the same block. And the first thing that I noticed when I tuned into her energy was that her feminine energy was so shut down. It felt as if that being connected, opening up to vulnerability, opening up to feeling supported, not only on the X plane, as I like to see how we organize here, but the Y plane of our guides and angels, felt like there was a big karmic wounding that felt like it wasn't safe to open up. So this video is really a direct response to our time together. So the first sign that we can tell that we are really wounded in our divine feminine energy is that we suffer from patterns of low self-esteem. And when we feel like we are unworthy of love, when we feel we're unworthy of success, when we feel that we're unworthy of happiness, this is a direct sign from your feminine energy that you don't feel safe, that you don't feel seen. You know, when we really express our feminine energy, and when, like I said, it's direct, when it was feeling hampered or one way or another, we don't feel safe to be seen. And that manifests from our ego intellect as a place of where we need to try harder, that we don't see ourselves. Feminine energy is all about receptivity. It's all about creativity. And when you suffer from low self-esteem, what you're really saying is that I'm not worthy, that there is something fundamentally wrong with me. And that this often gives into patterns of overgiving, getting very much into our head, being extraordinarily critical of ourselves as a way to motivate and change. Yet, when I think about the divine feminine, I often think about the archetype of Kuan Yin or Mother Mary or even Mother Earth, of just this nurturing, grounded energy that loves all of the different parts of us. And like I said, when that part is wounded, that's when we feel that we are not worthy. That manifests in these low self-esteem patterns that then bleed into our relationships, bleed into our creativity, bleed into our receptivity, and also feel like we're not allowed to ask from ourselves, the universe, or others what we need or are worthy of. The second really big sign that you need to heal your divine feminine is that you avoid intimacy in relationships. Now, this might mean that you're afraid to really open up to others, and could also show up as over-giving. When we don't feel safe to be seen, when we don't feel safe to receive, we oftentimes can overgive, letting people in our lives be the center instead of ourselves. And when we don't feel safe to be vulnerable, which really just means sharing our deep parts of ourselves, and that we can't trust others to either handle it, or that we'll be rejected or judged or, misunderstood in one way or another, that's where we put up walls between ourselves and the world, and where we really suffer from this feeling of having to do it alone. And that's a core wound, because we have to recognize that we on our being, first as primal beings, as it's part of our birthright to be connected. We need it to feel safe. We need it to feel supported. We need it to belong. We really need this energy and this transference of energy that is a give and take. And when that is really disconnected, that's often when we shut down our heart space and can feel hardened against the world. If you find that you're very critical of yourself or others, if you find that you can't ask for help or believe that there's no ability for others to show up for you, that's a really big sign that your divine feminine is wounded. 3, a huge, huge thing that I see so often is that we suffer from creative blocks. Creativity and intuition are twins, and intuition is a facet of our divine femininity. Because, if we look even at the major arcana, which are the first 21 cards in the tarot, the third is the Empress. And the Empress, aside from just a card, she is the archetype of the divine feminine. If you look at the picture, she is in a gorgeous, lush garden. She's pregnant. She's got the shield of Venus. She's got these beautiful waters that are nurtured. There's an abundance. And that creative energy, when it gets wounded, that means that we don't feel safe expressing ourselves, that we don't feel like we're good enough, that our ideas aren't good enough, that we get into the balance of the masculine of trying to figure it out. And creativity doesn't just mean artistry. It also just means seeing ourselves as creators. Because you, by your inherent birthright, you are a creator. You are creative. We come in singing, dancing, playing, expressing. And instead of judgment, we allow this energy to flow. So notice, how do I feel? What is my relationship with my creativity? What is my relationship with my ability to be a creator? And fourth, a big thing that I see when we are disconnected from our divine feminine is that it manifests physically. We feel chronically fatigued. We feel disconnected. We don't feel good in our bodies because we have been over giving. And I find that when we suffer from chronic fatigue, exhaustion, depletion, this is a big telltale sign that your energies are out of balance. And it also means that you need to be nourished. There's a saying, the general drinks from the well first. And when we have nothing to pull from, we have nothing to give. That's, like I said, manifests physically. So just in some of these very, very quick telltale signs that our divine feminine is wounded, now we're going to really dovetail into some of the things that help to heal these karmic wounded patterns. And one, starting to reconnect with nature. When we start to reconnect to nature, first, this is where we can connect to the archetype of the divine feminine, of Mother Nature. This is a big place of where we recognize that we belong, that you are not disconnected from the whole, from others, but that you are part of a whole ecosystem that is wired into your body. So as we spend time with nature, we start to also reconnect, get fed by greenery, start to feed ourselves with lushness, start to remember that we belong, that we are connected, that there are bigger things than just our intellect that can hold our pain, that can hold our grief, that we don't have to manage all by ourselves. Second, like I said, when we're disconnected from our femininity, we're very disconnected from our physical bodies. That's where we get very stuck in our head, overthinking, analyzing, criticism, trying to figure it all out. And that means that we've squeezed our spirit out of our bodies and are trying to figure out how to solve a heart wound with our heads. So as we start to reconnect to our bodies, which means movement, gentle movement, this can be yoga, this can be dance, this can be physical energy, activity. And I don't want it to be like the giant HIIT workout that's like so hard, but soft. Connecting, that might just even be something as enjoying the sensuality of being in a beautiful bubble bath. Might be the sensuality of starting to move your body, of how it feels, that helps to move that mental block, that allows us to start to feel safe to receive. And something interesting also happens when we start to get back into our bodies is we stop thinking our feelings and start to feel our feelings. We start to recognize that the sensations that come into our body are telling us things. And instead of stories that we need to figure out, are energy and places where we need to nurture and heal. So definitely, absolutely start to move. 3, make it an intention to start to work with your relationship with your creativity. And it doesn't have to be for anyone else, especially for anyone else, that you can start to feel good creating without any sort of pressure. This might be as simple as creating a creative meal or picking up an instrument that you've always wanted to learn. Or if you're really struggling, a great place to start is by getting a coloring book and some pencils that can give us some bumpers that can, sometimes a blank page or a canvas can feel really overwhelming. So gentle ways to invite our creative self to come back in. And that is so important. I know for myself, I've started to learn guitar, which has been a very fun way to nurture my own creativity, my own divine feminine, and also of having that place of being able to create, play and create for create's sake. Now, 4th, this is where we have to start to nurture our relationships. Look at the nature of your relationships. Are they out of balance? Are you overgiving? Do you feel safe to ask for things? When we can look really with just discernment at the quality of our relationships, this is where we can start to nurture them. Who are the people in our lives that are safe, that we can start to talk about our vulnerability, about our inner worlds, about this place of our connectivity? And if you really struggle with finding a place of community around that, I definitely encourage you to come to some of these group workshops or find an online community that can be a place and an oasis for if in your life that there aren't people who are capable of feeling or able to be safe or have done enough work around opening up these really deep reserves for ourselves. And when we look at our relationships, this is also where we can start to build a relationship back to our spirit. As I always know, one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, starting to bring your attention inwards to start to reconnect with your spirit, to start to soften. This relationship doesn't just include your external relationships, but your relationship with yourself. As I always said, a big tool that I love, name 3 things that you love about yourself, 3 things that you're grateful for, and 3 things that you're proud of. This starts to first use our conscious mind to notice what is working, heal patterns of low self-esteem and start to see ourselves fully instead of through the lens of what's not working. And really ask your guides and your angels for help as you work through this. And last, most importantly, of starting to do some forgiveness work. Forgiveness is healing. And first, of starting to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for all the ways of our human parts, going through the things in your life, forgiving different things in your relationships, because this helps to alleviate and lighten the load. And our forgiveness work helps to bring our heart back into wholeness and really starts to give us that place of being able to be present. Now, this isn't a spiritual bypass. Often in terms of forgiveness work, we have to go through the portal of our body and our emotions of what is true, which might also include anger, frustration, grief, so that we can come to a place of true forgiveness instead of mental forgiveness, which is again kind of that divine masculine energy that can block that feminine. So forgiveness work is a very big and multi-layered piece, but a good place to start. Where do I need to forgive? Where do I need to let go? Where is energy that is no longer serving me that I can start to bring in more space, to bring in more receiving, to bring in more healing and wholeness? So I gave you a whole bunch of tools. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Definitely come join me for my workshop. Definitely check out my website, soniatully.com. If you are interested in a soul reading, I do intuitive readings and mentoring and workshops. So come give me a visit. I would love to help support you on this journey. And I am sending you all my love, and I'll see you next week. Bye.